This video is about, how do I create copies of components or assemblies from drawings that are linked to them? How do I replace parts in a drawing or in an assembly? How do I insert parts into an assembly? That's what we're going to see in this section. To do that, I'll go to my assemblies and I have one called something with cross. Now, this is an assembly from ZW Soft. I have entered it into the Gain collaboration and maybe some of you know it. It's about a universal joint. And this assembly consists of these individual parts. Here in the references I can see which parts they are. And this assembly, when I search for it, naturally also has a drawing that belongs to it. That means I also search for it, and then I find the drawing of this assembly. Both datasets are released. I can just as well search for cross and then find it and the associated file, then individual components. Okay. So, what do I want to do? I want to copy this assembly. That is, I can go here and say copy this assembly. And I want to copy the associated drawing as well. And all the parts that are in this assembly are now taken along for the time being, but initially without being copied. Otherwise, I could put a tick here, then the files would also be copied. I'll say copy. Now the assembly is copied in the background, the file is created, the drawing is copied, created, and now I have this data set here. I want to open that. Here it is again. The drawing is also opened with write permission. The assembly is loaded in ZW3D and is now available here. Since I said copy, I can work with this file, that is, it has write permission and I can make my changes. Okay, inserting components, no problem. We go here and say insert, find our mounting plate that we created. Select it, say select, have that on the hook, can place that accordingly. So, I'll put it there. Okay, we can place it right where we want it. In addition, I can also say that I want to replace a component. I want to make a copy of this basic body. That is, I say, replace, select this basic body, and then Gain asks, what do you want to replace it with? Do you want to start your Gain search, find another part that is already there, or do you just want to make a copy of this part? I say no, I want to make a copy. The part and the drawing are then copied. So, I'll call this base new. It is a manufacturing part and is saved. So, drawing, assembly and component and drawing are copied. In my assembly, the new, copied component is now replaced. Of course, it has the reference to the drawing that was also copied, and when I double-click on it, I am in this component and can edit and change it. That is, if I were to say extrude, put a layer here on this surface and simply draw a rectangle. (300 by 200). That's how the whole thing should look. I would like to add that. Okay, I can add holes here and so on. Let's do that now. On this surface, I would now also like to go to 0, 0. 240 by 250. Okay, make a sketch and incorporate holes in it. I don't really need to explain this to anyone. You as a user know ZW3D. You know how to set an arc. And so on. This is my new plate. And this plate has already been exchanged in this assembly. I can say, for example, so, Now show me the drawing of the plate. Then I'm here in the drawing of the plate. Go back into the part and go from the part back into my assembly. Update once because something has changed. We know that, so, the whole thing is still fixed, we have just seen that. I have just built my mounting plate into it. That means that when I say you should be flanged to it, we actually already know that. I don't want to explain now how that works exactly. This is ZW3D. And we know it. So, check, done. That means my mounting plate is also attached here. My component is in there. Okay, if I now check in my component or the drawing again. That is, it doesn't matter, check it in or open the drawing of the assembly again, we can perhaps also see that it will, of course, be replaced at this point. That means that the components are also on it. It has also been copied. Then I'll check in the drawing now. It flickers a bit, the data is saved, preview images are made, and then the data is closed. Now the regeneration, yes. And then the whole thing goes back. Exactly. And I have just opened the drawing separately. That means we can check it in once now. I go back into Gain Collaboration and look at the files that have been created today. There is the copied assembly, which we can already see below. The mounting plate also appears in the preview image or in the references. Of course, this new baseplate drawing also fits at this point. Here is this copied plate that we have just recreated from the assembly or created a copy and also the drawing for it. This means that I can easily copy assemblies in ZW3D, copy components within the assemblies and also exchange things with each other in a referenced way. Links remain intact, drawings know which components they have to access. This is very easy in Gain Collaboration. And yes, it takes little effort. All the references fit and work and are also reset. So, if I now look and say, this component here is my mounting plate, where are all the places it can be used? Firstly, of course, in the drawing. But also in the assembly in which we have just installed it. If I now take my assembly and say, please show me the parts list, it's the same. There is this new baseplate in it. But also this mounting plate. That means I don't have to work with it at all. My parts list is created automatically. Everything fits and works, as I said, very simply and comprehensibly. And that is actually what I wanted to show in this video. That is, how do I copy assemblies and components? How do I work in the assembly? How do I replace parts in the assembly? Well, either manually, by saying find a new part, pick that, replace that. Or by saying, create a copy of the part directly from the assembly. Then it is replaced. Super simple to use and, yes, comprehensible for everyone.